Back when I was in high school, a girl named Kylee whispered in my ear and told me, "I have a crush on you." But I ignored her and acted like I didn't hear her. Now, by the end of this video, you'll get to hear the full story leading up to this happening, and you may get some value out of this video. You may learn something, you may relate, this video may help you with something you've gone through, etc. Now, I may get some of this story wrong because this was so long ago. But to start this story off, I want to go back to one of my first ever interactions with Kylee, if not my first interaction. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but at one point, one of my best friends, Brendan, actually dated Kylee, and I think it was when I was in 6th grade or 7th grade. Brendan and Kylee were in the grade below me, so if I'm correct about the time that this happened, they would have been in 5th grade or 6th grade. So yeah, I was at my best friends Jimmy and Brendan's house, hanging out and playing video games with them like I used to always do, when Brendan invited his girlfriend at the time, Kylee, and her 2 older sisters to come over and hang out. When they showed up, I remember Brendan letting them into the house and awkwardly talking to them in the living room for a little bit, trying to decide what they were going to do while Jimmy and I continued playing video games. They eventually decided to go outside and play, so they all went out in the front yard while Jimmy and I kept on playing video games. When they went outside, I noticed that Kylee had left her phone in the living room, and me being the immature, annoying little kid that I used to be, I had the bright idea of locking her out of her phone because I thought it would be funny to see her reaction when she came back. For those of you who don't know, if you try to open a phone with the wrong password multiple times, it will lock up for a certain amount of time, making you have to wait to try to enter your password again. If you keep locking up a phone multiple times in a row, the time increases every time it locks up. So you can get it to lock up for hours or even make it to where you have to unlock it some other way. My goal was to lock her out for hours, so I needed a lot of time to be able to do that. And I was panicking as I was doing it because she was right outside. And sure enough, Kylee walked in looking for her phone as I was doing it, so I ran extremely fast through the house and out the back door with her phone before she could get me. As soon as I got outside, I remember frantically trying to find somewhere to hide. And I chose to hide behind a bush in the far corner of Jimmy and Brendan's backyard because it felt like the best spot to hide. At the time, their house didn't have a fence, and that bush was off next to the street in a spot where they wouldn't think I would be hiding. I remember sitting there for a long time, waiting for her phone to let me try again. And I kept on seeing Brendan, Kylee, and her sisters walking around the house over and over, looking for me, calling out my name, telling me to come out, and that it wasn't funny. Now that I think about it, I remember Brendan seeing me hiding behind the bush as they were walking around the house together, but he didn't give me up. I remember us locking eyes with each other and Brendan shaking his head as we smiled at each other. I've hidden that spot before, so it makes sense why Brendan would know where to look to find me. If I'm not mistaken, at one point they had Brendan call me on his phone while they were all sitting in the living room. And Kylee and her sisters were very upset with me and trying to get me to tell them where I was, but I wouldn't tell them. I want to say they were even afraid I might have gone home with Kylie's phone, but I reassured them I was just outside, hiding somewhere. I think Brendan even came out there by himself and talked to me behind the bush, and if he did, I don't remember how our conversation went, but knowing us, I probably would have shown him how much time I needed to wait to lock up Kylie's phone for hours. And he probably would have played the part of laughing with me and being my friend, knowing that he shouldn't be letting me do what I was doing, but letting me do it anyway because he was probably too afraid of having conflict with me. Eventually, Kylee and her sisters found out where I was, and I remember locking up Kylie's phone for hours just in the nick of time as her oldest sister walked up and got Kylie's phone from me. I remember her scolding me for what I did, but I don't remember exactly what she said to me. Not long after that, Kylee and her sisters got their things and went home because they were only allowed to be over there for a certain amount of time, and I had wasted all of it by having them worry about Kylie's phone the entire time. Looking back, I regret doing what I did, and I feel bad about it. It was immature, uncalled for, and just stupid. I should have just minded my own business and let Brendan and Kylee spend time with each other. Brendan, Kylee, and Kylie's sisters, I'm sorry for doing that to y'all. Now, moving on to the next part of this story. I was in high school, it was the beginning of my sophomore year, and I decided to change one of my classes to an ag class. For those of you who don't know, ag is short for agriculture. Now, because ag is a 4-year class and I didn't go to ag during my freshman year, I got put into a freshman ag class. And guess who was in my ag class? Brendan and Kylee. Just so you guys know, Brendan and Kylee were no longer dating at this point, and it had been a long time since they had. Now, surprisingly, Brendan and I didn't talk to each other much at all in ag class. Probably because we weren't sitting next to each other, and he was more focused on his friends who were sitting next to him. But guess who I ended up having to sit next to? Kylee. Now, I had just gone through a very dark era of my life around the beginning of my freshman year, and I had very bad social anxiety because of it. If any of you listened to my 4-hour-long video titled, "This Changed Me Forever," you'll know what I'm talking about. So, because I had very bad social anxiety, I wouldn't say anything to almost anybody unless they talked to me first. Now, guess who tried to talk to me? Kylee. I think it was because no one she wanted to talk to was sitting next to her, and she was trying to fill the awkward silence of sitting next to me. I didn't really say much when she tried to talk to me. I just gave her short responses, if any at all, and I didn't really even look at her. That's how bad my social anxiety was, and it's still pretty bad to this day, believe it or not. You guys are actually getting to listen to something very rare, my voice. I do remember her mentioning what I did to her back in the day, so I knew she remembered who I was. Over time, Kylee kept on trying to talk to me in ag class, and I even let her take pictures of me and her on her phone. She would put her phone at an angle where we were both in it and snap a picture of us with some goofy filter on. It was cringe, I'm not gonna lie. But I let it happen because I didn't want to be rude or make things more awkward. I could tell she was just trying to break me out of my shell and be my friend, but I didn't care. I was just trying to get through school, and I was more worried about my dreams of becoming a YouTuber than anything else in my life. Now, fast forwarding to Halloween of that year. My family, my friends, and I were scaring in my haunted house that my family and I set up every year in our backyard, when I noticed Kylee and her friends were coming through. I remember trying to scare them, but I don't remember if I was successful. I was running around with a chainsaw as Leatherface that year, so it was easy for me to scare people. Don't worry, the chainsaw didn't have its chain on it. As we continued scaring people, I kept on seeing Kylee coming through the haunted house, so I could tell she was hanging around, but I didn't pay much attention to her. I remember seeing her talking to people and pointing at us, trying to figure out who was who behind our costumes. As the night was getting late, we were scaring the last of the people who were coming through. And as we were all in our act, walking out the back gate, trying to scare people, I watched Kylee, through my mask, walk up right beside me and whisper in my ear, extremely quietly, "I have a crush on you." I remember immediately feeling flustered and unsure of how to respond. So I stayed in my act and kept on walking forward, acting like I didn't hear her. After we scared the last of the people, we decided to go around town using my mom's truck to see if we could scare anybody who was still out. Kylee even asked if she could come, and we let her. We filled up all the seats in the truck, and the rest of us sat in the back of the truck. I remember sitting in a corner in the bed of the truck, and Kylee was sitting on the tailgate of the truck right across from me. As we went around town, I kept on wondering if I actually heard Kylee say that to me, and she kept on looking at me as we were driving, so that made me think that she really did. I kept on wondering whether or not I should say anything to her, and if I would even want to be in a romantic relationship with her. I wasn't sure if I was physically attracted to her or not, because sometimes I found her physically attractive and other times I didn't. I also thought about Brendan's past relationship with her, and I didn't like the idea of dating someone that my friend had dated. I even tried to estimate the kind of person Kylee was, because that matters to me the most in a romantic relationship. I thought about who she was friends with, her family, all of that. As we kept on going around town, I never said anything to her, and eventually we went to drop her off at her house. I remember seeing her walk off as we drove away and feeling so bad for ignoring her and thinking to myself, there goes my chance. What made the scene even sadder was that it was nighttime and she walked off into the darkness towards her house. Now, moving on to the next part of this story, it was my junior year of high school, and it was not long after I got turned down by a girl named Vanessa. Vanessa was a new student in our school that year, and I thought she was the most attractive girl our school had ever seen. I remember one of my hopes when I was in school was to find a girl that I could spend the rest of my life with. So when I saw Vanessa, I wanted so badly for her to be the one. When she turned me down, I remember feeling depressed, but it wasn't that bad because I braced myself for rejection. Let's just say I had learned my lesson not to let myself fall deeply in love with someone so quickly. Like I said earlier, if any of you listened to my 4-hour-long video titled "This Changed Me Forever," you'll know what I'm talking about. So after getting turned down by Vanessa, I felt so left out. There were many other students in my school in romantic relationships, and I wished I had someone. So me being slightly desperate, I started thinking about Kylee. I thought about her deeply, and I was trying to figure out if I would actually want to spend the rest of my life with a girl like her. I thought about her looks, I thought about a future with her, I thought about a family with her, I thought about everything. And after thinking it through, I decided to give it a shot because I thought we would probably make a great couple. So I went on Snapchat and I messaged her saying that I actually heard her when she whispered in my ear that night on Halloween, and that I was sorry for ignoring her and that if she still wanted to be with me, I was willing to give it a shot. And she replied saying, "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about." When I read that, I felt extremely embarrassed and responded as politely as I could by telling her not to worry about it and that it was my bad. After that, we never talked again and we both went our separate ways. Now, I actually think she might have just been denying that she said that to me because I checked her social media and it looked like she was with someone already. Like she didn't want her boyfriend seeing our texts and thinking something was up, which, if that was the case, I respect her for being loyal, but she didn't have to lie. She could have just told me the truth and I would have understood and left her alone. All I can say is I know for a fact that I saw her walk up to me that Halloween and I heard her whisper in my ear, "I have a crush on you." It's just one of those things that I'll never forget. Now, one of the main reasons why I wanted to tell this story is to teach people not to be desperate like I was. Desperation isn't going to lead to anything good, and it's way better to just be patient and wait on God. For those of you who don't know, I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and I have been since the beginning of 2024. I'm 23 years old, and I've been waiting as patiently as I can for the last 7 years for my wife. Technically, I have been waiting all my life, but I haven't always been patient. There was an era of my life when I was extremely desperate, which caused me to ruin so much of what I had. Don't make that same mistake. If you want to know about that era of my life, go listen to the video I've been mentioning titled "This Changed Me Forever." But yeah, don't make that same mistake. I found a lot of peace in believing that my Lord Jesus Christ will bring me a wife when it is the right time. I believe that's how I will be united with the most amazing and beautiful wife I could ever imagine having. Because I believe that my Lord knows what's the best for me and that He'll deliver right on time. Just know that God's timing is different than yours, so you might have to wait longer than you want to. But if you just be patient, you'll be surprised at what God can do in your life. It won't be easy, but it'll be worth it. That's how I try to see things now in my life, and I just wanted to share that with y'all, in hopes of it planting the seeds in y'all's hearts to find Jesus just as I have. Now, when it comes to Kylee, I don't know what's going on with her nowadays. I sometimes wonder whether or not I missed out on a good relationship with her, but I don't worry about it. I just wonder. I just pray that Kylee truly finds Jesus and builds a relationship with Him if she hasn't already, and that she is saved by Him just as I have been. I pray the same thing for everybody else in the world. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. One thing I want to say to y'all is that whenever a woman comes into my life, I'm going to pray to God and ask Him if He is in favor of us being husband and wife, and wait patiently for Him to let me know. I want to make sure that I'm not making a big mistake before I propose to her and make it official. I never want to have to go through a divorce, ever. And as someone whose parents got divorced, I never want to do that to my own children. For anybody still watching, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to stick around and keep watching, here's another one of my videos.